Mr. Fasakin, you know, one of the comments you made was, you know, this idea that if you look at the entirety of the government apparatus, you'll say, oh, well, you know, the Minister of Finance comes from here, the CBN governor comes from here. And I understand where you're coming from. When the president has made a defense on this issue of the ethnicity of appointments in his government, one of the places he always talks about is the Federal Executive Council. But we know that there is a constitutional mandate in terms of the Federal Executive Council. So is it not sending a message that the Constitution has to mandate fairness before fairness is implemented? Because if you talk about, for example, the CBN, or you talk about the NMPC, or you talk about any other institution, are we saying that it is okay for future administrations, once President Buhari eventually finishes his 1 or 2 terms, depending on what happens, when that happens, when somebody else comes in, is it not going to set a precedent that whether they're from Igbo land or they're from the West or they're from the Niger Delta, that they're just going to take certain institutions that are very key, like the NNPC or like security or like the CBN, and just make it an ethnic silo? Is that not a concern on your part?
No, that is not what I'm talking about. I mean, you know, sometimes we ascribe so much hoopla to what the president should be doing. You know, I mean, so, and then when you say an agency of government is doing so much, something, you know, something that we don't consider very, you know, palatable, I mean, very nice, we still ascribe it to the president. I think we should also direct that to the, you know, chief executive concern. But let me also say this, that what I have, you know, said, you know, in my, I mean, while on this program, I've been that, see, when you consider security matters, you don't subject it to the usual rationalization on where the person comes from and trying to ensure that the person, that we must maintain, you know, that kind of balance as we talk about, I mean, federal character. No. The security issues are so germane to the existence of the nation at all. And so if you must, I mean, it's just like you say, you want the president to appoint, to subject who becomes his ADC to, you know, to this rationalization of ethnicity and stuff like that.
Nobody has said that. That's
stuff like that.
That's completely different. But let me get you to respond. Go ahead.
You see, when we speak about this tendency that has taken root, we're not speaking only because President Muhammadu Buhari is president today. Those of them who are aware 30 years ago when he was the former military head of state will see that it is a systemic way of doing things. In 1983, when they took over, it pleased him and pleased his followers that only governors and vice president and even of the, may the soul of Kwame rest in peace, were the ones that were hounded into jail. And the ones that seemed to come from a particular coloration of his never got to court, let alone jail. The best they got is house arrest. The problem with parochialism is that if you are being parochial, you will necessarily not have to be, you will have to be doing favoritism. Now, those who we are not going to favor, there's also the reverse tendency of it, that you will now begin to become malicious and wicked. What do I mean? It is malicious and wicked for you, which is the opposite of your parochialism, to have all the courts in the land tell you that Dasuki should be given bail, and you will, because of malice and wickedness, not grant him. It is the opposite of your parochialism, malicious and wickedness, for you to go back to a policy that has said, okay, we are doing monetization of houses for senators and reps, and now you go and start disturbing David Mark that he bought his Senate house. Is he likely to be able to sell it to himself without a policy? It is malicious and wickedness, which is the opposite of parochialism. It makes, you know what it does? It makes you look at everything from a clannish mindset. And only the things that you can protect within your clan and your friends, even within his party, you will see, you will notice that the cleavage that was CPC within before, they are all doing well. The cleavage that were not CPC, whether the new PDP or the AP or ACN and another, they are basically struggling. What are we saying? We're saying that President Muhammadu Buhari You are president of Nigeria now. You are standing in a very good place in history. You need to become the president of the whole of Nigeria. One of the things that betrays the fact that he is clannish is that how dare you send crocodile dance, python dance all over the place, and when they are killing people in the Middle Belt, you are acting as if you have to do patronage of the killers first before you do justice. I'm not saying you don't have a right to say let's solve this grazing problem, but in the same vein that you are saying let's solve the problem, you must be going in with justice.
Right. Let me bring in Femi additional quotes.
Please, sorry, I didn't want to interject in, but before you raise your question, I think on national TV we need to be careful not to be seen to be mendacious and outrightly mendacious. And I think it's good that we must be able to state facts. In the same 1983 debacle that he was talking about, people like the two former governors of Kano State, Barkin Zuwo and Abubakar Rimi, were sentenced to long years in prison. And some other places. So when he comes here, when he comes here and bandies these words that are not true, I think it's good because 1983 to now is just about.
Okay, what's your rebuttal about?
I think
my rebuttal on that is that nobody is saying that. I mean, Dasuki is from his clan. It's because of malice and hatred and anger. He's not being cut down on him.